Hello, I'm Dr. Jiren Xu. I'm a lecturer in remote sensing and GIS at the School of Social and Environmental Sustainability at the University of Glasgow Dumfries campus. In this mini lecture, I'm going to introduce you to the Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, and explain how we use them to map and analyze environment changes. So, what is GIS? GIS is a system that can allow us to capture, store, manage, analyze, and visualize the spatial data. That is the data tied to the specific location. Think of the GIS as the intersections between the maps and the database. So it lets us ask and answer questions like where are the environment risks increasing, or how has land use changes over the past decades, and which area are the most vulnerable to the future climate impacts. GIS is used in the fields like the environmental sciences, disaster risk reduction, urban planning, conservation, agriculture, and also the public health. It is not just about the maps, it is about understanding patterns, trends, and the relationships between space and time. The GIS handles two fundamental types of spatial data called raster and vector. Raster data is a grid base, and each pixel of the cell contains a value, and this could be the elevation, temperature, or vegetation cover. And satellite imageries and drone imageries are the examples of this kind of raster data. And then is the vector data. The vector data, in contrast, is feature-based and includes the points like the sampling locations, lines like the rivers or the roads, and the polygons like lakes or the protected area. Each feature has associated attributes stored in tables, such as land cover types, species counts, or years of the survey. So to study deforestation, for example, the raster imageries might show the vegetation loss over time, where the vector layers might only show the protected area boundaries or rows. So basically, the GIS can let us overlay these different kinds of layers and explore how they interact. One of the most powerful aspects of GIS is its abilities to analyze change over time. So let's look at the four real-world examples of how GIS can help monitor the environment change. Our first example is the deforestation in Amazon. By comparing the classified satellite imageries from different years, so we can map the areas where the forest cover has declined. For example, in Brazil, the GIS can help researchers to map the illegal roads, track the forest fragmentation, and quantify the land conversions to agriculture. Our second example is the glacial retreats in the Himalaya. Multi-temporal satellite data from the 1980s to the present shows the dramatic glacial shrinkage in the Hindu Kush Himalaya region. So the researchers use the GIS to digitize the glacial boundaries and calculate the retreat trace, and also estimate the impact on the downstream water availability. Next is the urban expansion in the Yangtze River Delta in China. Rapid urbanization in cities like the Shanghai, Suzhou, or Hangzhou has dramatically changed the land covers in recent decades. Using the Landsat and also the Sentinel imageries, analysis can apply the classification and change the detection methods to identify how agricultural land is replaced by roads, buildings, and industrial zones. And GIS also can help assess the ecology impacts of its growth, including the habitat fragmentation and flood risk. Our final example is here in Scotland, and looking at coastal change on the Moray Firth. This part of northeast Scotland is facing increased coastal erosion and flood risks due to rising sea levels and stronger storm surges. And GIS is being used to map historic shoreline retreats using aerial imageries and LiDAR elevation data to model future flood scenarios under different climate changes, and to identify the high-risk zones for the infrastructures and biodiversity. So this spatial information is used by policymakers to inform the shoreline management plans and support the habitat restoration, and also guide the long-term climate adaptation policies. These examples show that GIS not only can help us visualize changes, but also can provide the quantitative tools to measure and explain it. GIS isn't about observing the problems, it's about solving them. Let's take the flood risk modeling as an example. So we can combine the digital elevation model, which is so-called DEMS, and rainfall data, as well as the land cover map and the hydrology data to simulate flood extents under different rainfall scenarios. The outputs can help emergency planners to predict which area will flood first, design evacuation routes, and also the position shelter and services more effectively. And in urban sustainability, the GIS can help us identify heat islands, analyze the tree canopy coverage, and target areas of the green infrastructure investments. In conservation, GIS supports habitat connectivity studies, species distribution mapping, and the ecological corridors planning. By linking the spatial data with real-world impact, GIS turns complex data into actionable insights. In research and teaching, we use the software like QGIS, ArcGIS Pro, or the Google Earth Engine, which can be used to handle the diverse environment datasets. A typical GIS workflow may include collecting spatial data, for example, from the satellite, fieldworks, or the open datasets, cleaning and reprojecting the data into common coordinate systems, and performing the spatial analysis such as buffering, overlays, or change detection, and applying classification algorithms to the raster imageries, and creating the category-fit outputs such as maps, dashboards, or the time-lapse visualization. These skills are used in environment consultancies, government agencies, NGOs, and international developments. And the recent global projects has used the GIS to map the drought vulnerabilities in East Africa, monitor the peatland degradation in Southeast Asia, track the coral bleaching event across the Great Barrier Reef, and support carbon accounting in reforestation projects worldwide. So as you can see, GIS is far more than digital mapping. It is a thinking tool, one that can help us understand where change is happening and why it is happening there and what we can do about it. So in a world facing accelerating environmental and climate changes, GIS gives us the means to respond with clarity, evidence, and precision. Thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Jiren Xu, and this has been a mini lecture on how GIS helps us map environment change.